We're back on MRR2 doing the thing that marks the official beginning to scenery, ballasting the track. It's been 1, 2, 3... I don't even know how long since I've done any work on the MRR2 Project Railroad, but recently it's been calling to me saying, ballast me. You guys know that ballasting is one of my least favorite parts, but it's so important. So let's get to it. When we last left off, MRR2 had been painted and was ready to begin the scenic work. That episode will be linked at the end of this video. Ballasting is one of those things that you need to get right when you do it. It is not the easiest thing in the world to redo. So before we begin, I want to mark where the road will be crossing the track. I'll be using the Walther's Concrete Road Kit and Grade Crossing Kit to make the road. Now, I've actually never used these products before, but I found them easy and fairly intuitive to use. I took pieces of the road and roughly laid them out and then marked the edges with a Sharpie on the cork roadbed. Now I can begin ballasting. I'm using Woodland Scenic's medium gray ballast for this, and I think it works fairly well, not only in terms of size, but in terms of color as well as just a general ballast color. If you are doing in scale, I do recommend switching to the fine ballast as its size is more appropriate. I start by lining the side of the cork roadbed with white glue using a foam brush. I'm only doing the sides because the glue I apply later will help everything stick to the top and in between the ties. I then begin pouring the ballast. For long sections of track like this, I like to use the cap from the shaker that the ballast came in to spread it around. I then use a 1-inch chip brush to spread the ballast and neaten it up to where I like it. A quick thing that you want to do is just take your finger and make sure that you have everything nice and smooth and you get everything out of the webbing of the rail. Now that the ballast is in place, I'm going to need to glue it down. And I'm using a tried and true method of isopropyl alcohol and scenic cement, which is a fancy term for white glue and water. I used to go for a 50-50 mix of white glue and water, and now I lean more towards a 60-40 or even a 70-30 mixture sometimes with more water than glue. This goes through the spray bottle a lot easier than that 50-50. Another thing that I do is I mix up all of the scenic cement in a separate bottle and then pour it into the sprayer. This gets any thick globs of that white glue and keeps them really from pouring into the bottle and being sucked into the spray nozzle. So do it in a separate bottle when you make your own scenic cement. I start by soaking the ballast with IPA. Now here I'm using 91% IPA. You can really go as low as 70%. I really wouldn't use 50%, but 70% is the one that I've used and still have plenty of success, but 91% works really, really well. If you do not have IPA, you can use what's called wet water, which is water with a few drops of dish soap, just your standard dish soap like Dawn or something. This just takes way longer to dry, like days to dry totally, versus IPA, which dries in a matter of hours. You use IPA or wet water to release the surface tension on top of the ballast. This helps the glue soak in rapidly like this. If you don't use something to release surface tension, you're going to get little glue droplets on top of your ballast and nothing is going to glue correctly. And even if it gets flat, you're going to get this nasty little crust on top of your ballast that easily chips off. Once the ballast is soaked, I apply the glue. If you have a bottle that can mist this mixture, that's great. I buy my spray bottles from the dollar store and they cannot mist. So I use them more as droppers than actual spray bottles. This is because if I spray in the streams, it's going to make little globs pop up and make my ballast uneven. But I do the little drops by gently pressing the trigger to regulate how many drops come out. If your bottle gets a little clogged while holding it sideways, have a place where you can hold it upright and blast it clear. Once this is done, you can let the ballast dry. So while that's going on, we're going to do the most nerve-wracking part of ballasting. Turnouts. Turnouts have several moving parts and have multiple points of failure, so you have to be extra careful ballasting them. The first big difference you will see me doing is that I use a spoon to gently spread small amounts of ballast. I'm doing the steps in the same order, just with a lot more care and control. When ballasting the side, I do as little as possible near any of the moving parts. Once the sides are done, I use the spoon again to place very small amounts in each section. I'm very careful about joints and areas that need clearance to move. Inevitably, you're going to get a few pieces of ballast where you don't want them. To clear them, I have found that using a clean and dry 1-inch foam brush with a point will clear away any excess ballast that is in the way. I use this on the turnout mechanism as well as the frogs, and it works great. Now it is time to glue the ballast down. It starts the same with misting and soaking all of the ballast with IPA. After this, I very meticulously put drops of my scenic glue in between each tie. I usually only do 1 drop per gap, and that is enough for when it soaks through everywhere. When I'm working my way through the mechanisms of the point, I put the glue in the middle to avoid getting it into the web of the rails as much as possible. Once that is all done, I can let it dry. Now for the final part, which is the grade crossing. Now the kit I bought is designed to work a bit better with a level crossing, but it works fine for this. I start by putting the pieces back in the layout in a more accurate positioning than I did before. I then mark my cut points for the road at the edge so that I can trim those off. Now I can begin placing the outer sides of the crossing. I use Superglue to put these in place, and it is my personal favorite Star Bond thick Superglue. I'll have a link to that in the description below. I'm not doing the interior piece just yet because that is an extremely important section that I do not want to do without testing it with rolling stock. You may also notice that I have not painted these sections either like I normally would. That is because of 2 things. One, these are already a concrete-ish color, so paint isn't strictly necessary for the whole thing. And 2, I will need to fill in the excess areas, the little gaps, with model putty and smooth them on the road. So even if I did paint, I'd have to come back and paint again. So I've decided that a light paint and weather technique will be used when I get to that step. Now I start laying the road as per the instructions on the kit. I put the road peak sections in and glue the road sections to it. I then use my knockoff Dremel to cut the edge sections to size, and then glue them in place. I will link this rotary tool in the description below. I really like it. I glue everything else in place, and then you use a piece of rolling stock to glue the middle section of the crossing in place and make sure that it has clearance. The last thing I need to do is ballast the track around the crossing, and then I'm done. Okay, let's slap a train on this and give it a test run. Yes, ballasting is not my favorite part by any means. And if you have a bunch of track, it can literally take months of spare time to complete this step. But it is so important to get right. So take your time, and I hope this video helps you out. Thank you all so much for watching. Until next time, I'm Jimmy from the DIY and Digital. Stay safe, be kind, and happy railroading.